What I usually say is everything and everybody is hackable. A lot of organizations have been hacked and are being hacked and are not aware of it because a lot of times what they do is they hack you and then they clear all trails that they've ever hacked you. Now, if they've been in your system for a long time, some of them are going to get lazy and careless. So what I usually say is that everybody is either hacked, being hacked, or about to be hacked.
Welcome to the Meaningful Work, Meaningful Life podcast, the show that empowers you to redefine the life you want and live your best life now. I'm your host, Francine, and in season 11, On Purpose, How to Live, Lead, and Thrive in the AI Age, we are exploring how to align personal purpose, leadership, and innovation without losing your human heartbeats. If you have been following the news this year, you know something fundamental has shifted. There were major breaches in telecom, healthcare, luxury retail, crypto, government service, all happening across the world. And they are not just about stories about stolen data. There are stories about the systems we rely on to live, work, and lead in AI age. When 16 billion password leaks in one go, when over 5 million hospital records are exposed, and when SIM card identities for 23 million people are copied, or when even childcare services and loyalty programs are compromised, it becomes clear that cybersecurity is no longer a technical issue sitting somewhere in the background. It's a leadership issue, a trust issue, and a societal issue as well. That's exactly what in season 11 of Meaningful Work, Meaningful Life podcast, where we're exploring how to live, lead, and thrive on purpose in AI age. That's why this conversation matters, because we cannot talk about purpose, leadership, or meaningful work if the digital foundation beneath us are fragile. And so today I'm speaking with Esther George, a global cybersecurity expert who has prosecuted cybercrime, trained government, and helped organizations protect not just data, but also human dignity. So in this season, we're asking how to stay human, intentional, and value-driven as technology accelerates. So Esther is going to bring us the clarity, the evidence, and grounded wisdom that we need. So together we'll unpack what these breaches really mean, what leaders must wake up to, and how each of us can stay safe, resilient, and purposeful in a world where the digital and human are now inseparable. Hi, Esther. Welcome to the Meaningful Work, Meaningful Life podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to have you too, actually. So since talk back in 2016 when I wrote my book, and you contributed also a case study in the book, Personal Branding in the Digital Age. That is like almost 10 years ago. Now you're back. But, for those who don't know you, Esther, take us back to your childhood before you became this global cybersecurity leader. What did you want to do when you grew up?
Well, I was one of those children, unfortunately, that every day changed. I mean, one day I wanted to be an astronaut, next day I wanted to be a journalist, then I wanted to be an archaeologist, then I wanted to be something else. So every day it changed. I had a sister actually who from the time we were small wanted to be a nurse, and she kept that, and she became a midwife and a counselor. But for me, to be honest, if I watched different programs, I saw different things on TV, I suddenly wanted to be that. Mm-hmm. So I was one of those children that didn't really know what I wanted to be. I must admit, by the time I finished my A-levels, I'd thought to myself I wanted to be either a lawyer, an archaeologist, because I love history, or a journalist. And so it was those three. But if you had said to me, which one would you prefer? It was like, throw up a coin and let's see whether it comes down heads and which one I would take. But
so you were very, very curious as well. Yeah.
Yeah, very. I mean, the thing that changed was that my father wanted me to be a lawyer. Mm-hmm. So once he heard that Esther doesn't know really what she wants to be, and then she's got these three. He more or less steered me to the law.
Okay, I can understand that. So how does actually that shaped actually who you became after that then? So, getting that law kind of mindset.
Well, the thing was that, remember I said I didn't mind any of those three and I wasn't really pushed to either one. But when my father was really into law and was encouraging me in it and was making it look really attractive to me, I thought, "Oh, maybe law is the one to do." And the other thing he did, which was very clever, was that he said to me that you do know that if you've got a first degree in law, you can become a journalist because you can do a master's in journalism or in archaeology. But if you get if you do a first degree in either of the others, you would have to then still go back and do law at some stage. And I thought, that does sound a good idea, because that meant that I wasn't limiting myself. I was really opening myself up to opportunities. It also meant that he knew his daughter very well, because the thing was that let's be honest, once I did a first degree in law, I was hardly likely to want to go and do archaeology and journalism, etc. So I went for law, really enjoyed it. And the thing was that I was very much into, I think in the beginning when I went into law, I was thinking about mineral law, and I was interested in minerals, gas, electricity, petroleum, etc. But when I actually did the courses, the one that really spoke to me was criminology, was criminal law, and it was helping people and seeing, helping how, and I thought I would like to help victims. And so I went into criminal law. That was the reason that took me into criminal law. And I decided that, did I want to defend or did I want to prosecute? I thought I would prefer to prosecute, because I thought the prosecutor stands there and is really helping victims, which was, remember, one thing I was really interested in. So I was very fortunate, went to law school, went to College of Law in Guildford, and then applied to join the Crown Prosecution Service as a trainee. So,
And then how did you move then from there to become then to get involved in cybersecurity?
well, as a trainee, I did actually youth. I was more interested in youths and how youths commit crime and things like that. And so I got into that. But along the way, I had actually always been into cyber, into science fiction. And there was this thing out there called Babylon 5, which was one of these sci-fi kind of I would call it a soap in space, really old program, which I got into, but was only in America most of the times. I was going during the summer to America to go and watch bits of it. And then a friend of mine said to me that, you can go online, which they didn't call it online back then, but you could go onto the computers and then you could find it. And I wasn't interested in computers at all. But remember, I was interested in sci-fi. So my friend took me online and took me to what was back in those days a bulletin board, and it had all the storylines that I wanted of this Babylon 5, and told me all of the things. Like, they usually have a cliffhanger, which in America they'll see it months before we do, so we're sitting around wondering what happened. Went on there and I found all of the cliffhanger, everything that happened. So that made me interested in computers. Luckily, he knew how to build computers, so he built me one, and then he got me involved in it and said to me, "Look, you can do whatever you like with the computer. You can't spoil it. Take off the back, play with it." And this was I think it was a 385 or something. He built me back in those old small computer days.
Yes.
Oh, no, it was a 285. And so I took it off the back. I started playing with it and everything. Obviously, as you do, I would damage it because I was taking things out and I didn't remember how to put them back. So after a while, my friend got a bit bored of me always phoning him up and saying, "Come and help me to repair this." And he said to me, "I think you need to go on one of these courses that they have on how to build and manage and do software with computers." So I did a Saturday course. I was still working as a prosecutor by this time. And every Saturday I would go for these courses, and they taught me how to build computers and things like that. But that's how I got into it and I got interested in it. And then around the year 2000, there was all of this about 2000 and the fact that computers and everything that was going to
We are
go
going
on.
to stop and then we are all going
Yeah,
to ground zero.
yeah. So that really got me interested in computers and knowing all about it. And that's how I actually got into the cybercrime aspect and cybersecurity. But meanwhile, I was actually a youth prosecutor at this time. But what happened was that I had to change, because back in those days, the idea of use wasn't online crime like you see now. Their idea was they snatch your computer or whatever it is, hit you over the head and run. So that wasn't really the kind of crime I wanted to investigate. So I actually applied to our headquarters and managed to get into our casework directorate, which dealt with more sophisticated crimes. And I told them in my application that I wanted to deal with computerized crimes and the kind of thing that I was into and what I was doing in my private time. And so I started doing more data protection matters, to be honest, which was what we had back then.
Wow, I love that. I love how, you merge those two passions, your passion of law and then this passion of discovering IT and computer, and then merge them into, law for IT for people who are committing crime on using those technology. That is fantastic. And this brings us actually to your December newsletter that you just published. So where you describe 2005 as one of the most disruptive cyber years on record. We have AI-driven attacks, major breaches, supply chain compromise, deepfakes. This one is like big one.
Yeah.
Phishing campaign at scales. What is driving this turbulence and why we should all take attention to this?
Well, it's been a slow build up actually, and I think people have been observing it in the sense of what's been happening is that we've been seeing hacking. Let's be honest, hacking has been around for years. What's happened now is that we've got AI, artificial intelligence, or as they say, these learning models, which are really, let's say, computerized models which take on a lot of data and can assimilate it and can actually help you to do a whole load of things. And all you need to do is really input a prompt and they'll bring out all the information for you really quickly. And things that were taking ages and you had to learn and things like that, AI, which we're calling it AI, makes it so much easier. So that's the difference that we're seeing. We're seeing that we've always seen, let's say, I used to call it disorganized crime because it was individuals working alone, more or less hacking and doing things. What we're seeing now is organized online crime, where these individuals they're individuals, but they've come together as a community and they are working in groups, and some of them are working across groups. So it's not like I'm in group A, I stay in group A. I can be in group A on Monday and I can work across a number of groups and they become very entrepreneurial. So like, we're saying, okay, young people are becoming entrepreneurial, which is very good. Unfortunately, the criminal aspect, they are becoming very entrepreneurial as well. And online, you've got some criminal, let's say, organizations that could actually, give organizations like eBay and so on a run for their money because they've taken that kind of, let's say, eBay structure, put it online, and they're selling criminal aspects. They're selling viruses. There's actually cybercrime-as-a-service, more or less, online, I would call it.
Really? Cybercrime-as-a-service? Where do you buy that? Is there a website, cybercrime-as-a-service?
There's an area on the web, on the deep web, where they call it the dark web, where you can buy all of these services.
Completely accessible. You can just go find something and buy it.
You have to, obviously you need the software. So there's what they talk Tor, which is the onion router. But if you put TOR into any website, it will bring up Tor, and you go with Tor, the onion router, online, and you can get across these websites. I do not advise people to do that because sometimes what happens is that you can get hacked yourself if you don't know what you're doing on these websites. Going onto the dark web is not advisable.
It's like going outside and going where all the criminals are. You are risking, going in those.
Yeah.
So not advisable for anyone.
Yeah.
It exists.
Yeah. And a lot of people that go on what they call virtual machines. So on their machine, they've got software that makes it look like they've got another little computer that's all self-contained. It's like having it in a sandbox. So it's all self-contained and everything they do in there won't affect their main computer. But if you go on there with, let's say, your laptop, your phone or whatever, and you don't know what you're doing, then you might get hacked. And you'll bring back a lot more trouble than what you took in there. So I don't advise people to go on there. I do advise people to be aware that there are these services and you can buy anything on there. I mean,
Like what? Give
drugs.
us some example. What, what can you
You can
buy?
you can buy drugs on there,
Wow.
and they will send it to your house.
Really?
There's another one where you can, people have got hitmen online. You can
Mm.
do that. What do you want? I mean, unfortunately, child
Mm.
sexual exploitation pictures, you can get those on there. So there's a lot of things you can get on there that are not desirable, that, you shouldn't really. That's why I don't advise people to go onto the dark web. Lot of researchers and people who know what they're doing going on there, and obviously a lot of criminals. I mean, so it's something that you need to be aware of, that there are these criminal services. A lot of people that are hacking nowadays would not know how to hack. They're given scripts of what to do. And a lot of times they don't even need to do that. They can pay somebody else to do the hacking for them. And then they can go in afterwards. And a lot of times they won't even bother going afterwards. They'll just pay somebody to do the whole deal for them, and they get what's the reward from it.
Do you think at this stage of the AI cyber criminality, is any organization at all safe, or anything can be hackable?
What I usually say is everything and everybody is hackable. A lot of organizations have been hacked and are being hacked and are not aware of it. And if you think about it, a lot of these hacks that you saw in the newsletter that I sent out, a lot of them, some of them said the person or whoever the group got in April, they didn't realize until about November or December or September. So if you think about it, they've been in there for how many months? And April is when they think the person got in. That might have been the time when they weren't clearing up, because a lot of times what they do is they hack you and then they clear all trails that they've ever hacked you. Now, if they've been in your system for a long time, some of them are going to get lazy and careless. So it might have been April might be the date that they got lazy and careless, and they think, oh, these ones are never going to notice. So I would say that what I usually say is that everybody is either being hacked, or about to be hacked. Everybody and anybody is hackable. The thing is that what you want to do is to make it so that there's low hanging, it's like, think about burglary in the real world. What you do is that you make sure that it's not your house that's going to be burgled. You get yourself an alarm, you get safety, you put lamps up and so on, so that the burglar that's walking around the road thinking, what's the easy one? There's no windows open, there's no this, there's no door open. Why not hit the one that the door is open, and so on? So you make sure you're not low hanging fruit. You make sure that you put your security in place, etc.
Yeah, so talking about those security and making sure we are not at risk and we lock our windows and doors as we do in the real world, what are those things that we can use online today, especially with this AI age, to make ourselves less hanging fruits, actually, to
Yeah.
increase and limit our security?
For individuals, the easiest one I would say is keep your software up to date. Have your antivirus, virtual protection, where you go online and it's being protected, your internet protection in
The
respect of that.
VPNs.
VPN,
Yes.
yeah, VPN, which is virtual protection of your network, etc. So that
Why
you
why
don't
is
get.
it important to use VPN? Because I have a VPN, but mostly I use it to go to other locations, but not locally.
What I use VPNs for is that if you think about the fact that on my laptop or your phone, you're using your banking details, you've got
Yes.
all kinds of things on there, your passwords are probably stored on there. What you want to do is you want to make sure nobody can hack you. Now, if you're going out and about and you're using other people's networks, a lot of times there's not much security on there.
Yeah.
So technically you can be hacked. Also, if you're using somebody's network, sometimes you may not be aware that it's actually, like, sometimes you can go into, let's say, a rail station, and then there's an open network which you think is somebody's. It can actually be a criminal's one. So you don't really want to be on there doing everything that you're doing.
You are
And having
happy
your
that you found a
passwords.
free Wi-Fi and
Yeah,
the person is just doing yum yum yum. Please keep sending the data, and then you log onto your bank account, and then he took everything in his.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And you've been hacked. But you've been hacked because you helped them to hack you.
Yeah. Okay.
So with a VPN, what that does is
Yeah.
that
And if I
protects
have a
you.
VPN, I can activate the VPN before doing that, even if I'm on a hotspot outside.
What I do is that I keep my VPN on all the time. I mean, you don't have to. I keep it on all the time so that even when I'm at home, I'm on the VPN as well.
Okay.
Now, what a lot of people would say is that your home network is a lot safer, obviously, than outside. But I think to myself that if I do forget, if I take it on, I take it off, I put it on, I take it off, I might forget. I would rather not do that. So I keep it on all the time. To be honest, you don't pay anything more for having it on all the time than turning it off and turning it on. So why not keep it on all the time?
But does that not slows the bandwidth sometime if you have your VPN on?
It does, and it can, and it depends on your VPN. Now, if you've got a free VPN, expect it to slow the bandwidth.
Of course,
The
yeah. I
bandwidth
got a
is the
paid
same.
one.
I also have a paid VPN, and it's very fast. And I've done it before. I've tested how fast is it with the bandwidth with
I'll
the
test
VPN,
mine
and
actually.
how fast is it without. And to be honest, there's very little difference, which is why I leave it on all the time. Obviously, if you've got one where there's a lot of difference, then you need to, and you're paying for it, you need to obviously talk to whoever you're with to find out why, because it shouldn't be that much difference. There will be a couple of points, but there shouldn't be that much difference in between the speeds. And
Without being a PR for any VPN companies, are there 5 top VPNs that you will recommend that are the best VPNs? And because I was just thinking, those VPN even secure by themselves, is it not also possible to be hacked with a VPN anyway? So before you give us like perhaps top 5 VPNs that we can actually look at.
I went with a VPN that some colleagues of mine who were ex-police officers went with, to be honest. And that's because they had looked into, and I would say on all VPNs you go with, you need to look into what they do, where they do it, and what they're into, and the integrity and the principles behind the VPN themselves. Because some of them are very much into privacy, some of them are not, and so on. So you need to, I mean, there's no one size fits all. The reason why, and I will tell you which one I went for ExpressVPN. But the reason why I went for ExpressVPN was because some of my ex-law enforcement colleagues were using it, who are into forensics. They had checked it out and they were sure that it was okay. Also, we were doing a lot of traveling at that time around Asia and around Africa. And they had a lot of connections, different connections there. So we went for it for very, very specific reasons. But I would also say that ExpressVPN, to be honest, I've traveled with them to other countries. They've got really good connections there as well. But the reason why we went for ExpressVPN rather than Nord, which is also NORD, that's also a very good one.
Use Nord's one as well. Yeah, Nord VPN. Yeah.
That one is also very good. But the reason why I went on that was because of the amount of connections that ExpressVPN had internationally.
Okay.
And because I was traveling in different regions, etc., I was looking at that. So what I would say is, if you go on the internet and you look for, or Which Magazine is a very good one. I usually use them alone.
Yeah.
If you use Which Magazine and you go on what are the top VPNs, they put out what they're looking at and why. And to be honest, they have a top 5, 10 or list, and their top 5 list will match what you want. And, because a lot of people are not doing as much traveling as we were back in those days, etc. And they weren't going to these kind of hard to reach areas where we knew we needed to make sure we would be able to get connections online, and we wanted our connections to be protected. Because we were staying in hotels a lot of times, which is not always the best. And is usually easily hacked.
Wow. Okay. So you recommend when people also go to hotel, that is really the best way to just put your VPN on all the time. Yeah.
I would put my VPN if I was in a hotel, because number one, you don't know who the other guests are. Number two, if you look at the passwords they're even giving you for the
it's
the
always
Wi-Fi.
the hotel 1, 2, 3, 4 or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, who can't guess that? Every person around would know it, and if it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, it's 5, 6, 7, 8. So, you have to think to yourself that if it's that easy and, because they need their guests to be able to remember it, everybody around the hacker would easily be able to hack you.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That is extraordinarily useful. I
Mhm.
use a Bitdefender. What do you think? Is it a good VPN?
Bitdefender is good VPN. It's very good for antivirus
I
and protection.
have a
It's
whole,
excellent.
yes.
I must admit, I use Norton's, but Bitdefender is very good
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
for an all-rounder.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Norton and McAfee. That was back in
Yeah,
90s.
yeah,
Those
yeah,
were like the two big contenders. Norton or McAfee. You had
yeah.
to be either one or the other.
I must admit that this year, when I was looking at renewing my Nortons, I was looking at Bitdefender and I was impressed with the range of services they had.
Yeah, I have been with them for many years now. I used to use also NordVPN for VPN, just only for VPN, but now I have also Bitdefender VPN as well. So I'm using a full solution for that. Wow, cool. Thank you so much. In terms of now, let's talk about password. We just
Yeah.
mentioned a little bit in terms of password. Seen actually in one of your link, there was a free password management course that I
Yeah.
have signed in, but I haven't started to look at yet. Tell us in terms of password. Now we have password everywhere. Oh my gosh. What are the best practice in terms of passwords? You might as well try to think of kind of password, but what is the best way to generate passwords and remembering or using those password manager? Tell us a little bit about passwords actually.
I must admit, for passwords, what I do for passwords, to be honest, is that I use an online random password generator.
Okay.
And my passwords are not less than about 12 characters, because anything less than that, it tells me it's insecure and it randomly generates it for me. Now, what I would recommend is having a password manager, because there's no way, if you're thinking about it, of having a password with 12 characters and every password has to be different for everything that you're using it for.
Really?
Yeah, let's say I'm using a password for my bank,
Yeah.
it should be different from the password I'm using for Gmail, which should be different from the password I'm using for my phone. Because the way hackers get into you and actually are able to really make the maximum amount of use out of you is that a lot of people are using one or two passwords for everything. So think about it. If I discover one of your passwords, it shouldn't be that I can get into your bank, I can get into your Gmail, I can get into your WhatsApp, I can get into your phone. You've just given me the keys to the kingdom. What it should be is that if due to a hack, not of me, but of someone else, which we're seeing so many of nowadays, and the information gets online, they should only be able to get into, let's say, my Gmail, which by the time the hack comes out, hopefully I've heard about it and I've changed my Gmail. If I haven't, they've just got into one of my Gmail accounts, not into everything.
What about those who stores their passwords in the Gmail manager, Google manager? Is that a good idea?
I must admit that I can't say, because I've never done that, to be honest. It's better than not having your password stored anywhere.
Well,
I would go for a separate password manager, but I would give a word of warning that in the last few years, we have seen a password manager being hacked. So it's not that they can't be hacked, if you know what I mean, but it's better. It's what you said, is what we said at the very outset, is that if everything and everybody can be hacked, what can you do? What you can do is you try and reinforce it. You do is that you have a password, but you go for the idea of multi-factor authentication. So you have a password, but it's not just the password alone they need. They need your phone number to get in. You might have a hard, another means of being a bio. Like on my one, they would use my password, my phone, but they also need to see me, my bank. I have to show my face so that they're sure it's Esther, and it's not that Esther's password's been hacked somewhere, her phone has been compromised. They still need my face before they're going to let me get my money out.
Yeah,
So
that's gone. Yeah.
so what I'm saying is that you try to think about the fact of, if everything's hackable, how do you stop the criminal? You stop them by making it, remember what we said, you make it harder for them to get anything out of you, which might mean that it slows you down a little bit. But think about those 2-3 minutes that you're spending on these extra things you put in place are worth it when you think that otherwise they're going to get to your bank account and take thousands.
Yeah.
And if they don't get to your bank account and take thousands, they'll wreck your life because people will tell you that they're hacked, their WhatsApp is hacked. Everybody on their WhatsApp list is sent messages.
Yeah.
Please send me money. Please
Yeah.
do this. Please do that. Which makes a nuisance of them to all of their friends and family. It becomes a completely embarrassing situation. If you think about those few extra minutes you're spending, tightening up your security will prevent all of this.
Definitely. So in terms of then the password managers, which one are the tops that you recommend as well?
I would say
Especially because I've seen that there are actually different even type of password manager. Some who actually store your password and others don't store. So you have to have like a master password and have to remember, like a bit like the crypto, where if you forget your key, there's no way you can recover
There's no way
that.
to-
So give us a breakdown of those password managers.
Well, rather than giving a breakdown of password managers, I would say think about looking at these magazines, computer magazines.
Yeah.
They're forever giving you an in-depth breakdown of all of the password managers. And also the thing that I would say is that if I give you a breakdown now, I'll be outdated.
Of course, yes.
Because there's
everything goes so fast.
there's so many new ones coming on the market, and there's so many hacks that have been happening that I may not be aware of.
Yes.
And so what I wouldn't like to do to people is give them a false impression that, oh, this is the ideal one that you need to follow and you're fine. What I would say is think of looking at these computer magazines. They have gone into a lot of detail on it. Which magazine as well gives you a regular, and I'm registered with Which because I like the fact that they continually do investigations, they continually test all of these, and they tell me each time which is the best one today. And they will tell you the time range over which they've tested them, etc. So you can be sure of whether they're outdated or whether they're not. That's why I'm very careful about saying, that's one. I will say which ones I use and things like that. But with password managers, I will say that there's better ones out there than the one probably I'm using at the moment because I haven't looked at the latest.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's touch also quickly about the MFA. You talk about multi-factor authentication. For those who don't know exactly what it is, explain us a little bit MFA.
For me, the easiest way of explaining MFA is that, like we said, if you've got a password, even if it's 12 characters and it's safe, unfortunately, if you go on to, let's say, we've heard recently about Marks and Spencer's being hacked. We've heard, all their third party being hacked. We've heard Google, 16 billion email addresses, etc. So if you think about it, at some stage or another, even if you as an individual are not hacked, business that you've utilized may be hacked. So let's say I've used esthergeorge.com, which I haven't, but we're just saying I'm a business which I've used, and I've put my password on there and it's hacked. Now the criminal knows it's Esther George, they know it's .com and they know the password. Now technically they'll be able to get into esthergeorge.com through that password if that's the only thing securing my access on how I can access Esther George. But what I would do is that if it's if you've got multi identification, which you can get in, you would also add in a bio hack, where what happens is that instead of just the password, it needs the password and it needs to either maybe your thumbprint or your finger, or with my one, it's my face. On some of it is my face. So that's the bio. But you can also put behind it your phone number. And there's also now some little keys that are out there that you can put behind it. As that one, what happens is that they will send a password instead of a phone number, it goes to the key kind of thing. And the key, you plug it in and it will authenticate that it's you. So there's what it's trying to do is that it's trying to make sure that you and you alone can access your data, wherever it's stored. That's what they're trying to do. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to toughen it enough so that the hackers, even if they've just got your password, they can't get in. Now, I think if I'm based in London and recently, some time ago, WhatsApp was encouraging everybody to go for MFA. They were saying, put not just your, let's say your phone number behind it, but also maybe your thumbprint and they try and use your phone to use your facial or your thumbprint. So they've gone bio as well. And that adds some security behind what's happening.
Is there any risk to actually go bio? Because sometimes you can also have be, wondering why sometimes people, when they collect those bio, what are they doing with that as well?
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, everything has a risk.
Yes.
Everything has a risk. I mean, recently I think we saw countries saying to I think there was this thing going around at one time, and I think it was in Kenya, if I remember correctly, where they were saying that for crypto, it was a new crypto coin or something like that, something funny like that, and all they needed was your bio details. Now, I saw that online. I was thinking, why do they need your bio details? And then they will give you some crypto and you become maybe a first founder. So obviously you have to think to yourself that there's something happening. And let's be honest, data is the new money thing. Somebody once said to bank robbers, why do they rob bank? That's where the money is. That's why they're robbing banks. Now everybody is trying to get online with the data. That's why they're so busy hacking everything that moves online. Is because the money is now in the data. And if you are looking at data, remember we're talking of bio data and ordinary data. So if they've got your face, if they've got your fingerprint, that's also equally valuable. The good thing is that
ID cards or something.
yeah, the good thing is that a lot of these and this is AI moving along, it doesn't just want static data. So if they've got my bio, let's say if they've got my data here, they've got my fingerprint, they've got my face, that's static. But a lot of these AI systems are moving to where if I just put up and say, oh, this is Esther, and it's static, they won't accept it. They want to see that it's me. There has to be movement. So you have to move your head, you have to move your eyes. So you can't now just back in the day, you could actually just use a photograph and you could use that as bio. But now, a lot of these systems, when you log on, want to actually they expect to see human movement. They know that humans don't just sit there and then it's like a photograph. They know there'll be some movement of the eye, there'll be this, there'll be that. There'll be movement and they can move in.
Fake now, again, there's another argument with some video moving and those avatars, they move like you. Are you sure that is you that I'm talking to? Did you not send your clone, your digital clone? Perhaps it's your digital clone that is talking.
Yeah, I mean that has now moved on. Before, what you could do with AI and know it's a deep fake is that you try to make it put your hand in front of the face, and if you put your hand in front of the face would kind of it couldn't have two things in the same area. But now it can actually some actual good AIs can actually do it. I mean, and talking about that, there was a case some time ago which was in Hong Kong where there was a guy that was in a meeting, which he thought he was in a meeting with his senior people in his company. And, so he thought he was talking to all of them.
Yeah.
And it was like wasn't Zoom, but it was like a Zoom meeting where he's seen everybody. So he thought he was talking to them and they told him to transfer 25 million US dollars. And what it was that it was deep fake. And he transferred the 25 million and it wasn't his CEO or the chief financial officer or anybody like that. It was deep fake. Now, for me, when I heard that, deepfake had been doing things like this, unfortunately, but a lot of times people had actually caught it before it actually got to that limit. When I heard that, I was surprised. You know why? Because the person that transferred 25 million wasn't the chief financial officer. Remember, the chief financial officer was supposed to be in there. It was a member of staff. I was surprised that, unfortunately, their system and organization had not put safeguards in place. They should have put safeguards in place that one person
cannot transfer that amount of money. Yeah.
Even if he was the chief financial officer, it shouldn't have been one person doing that finance. It should have been at least two. That should have been safeguard. And anybody below the chief financial officer should never have been given that authority individually to transfer up to 25 million. So what we're seeing is that, okay, the criminals did deep fake, but also, unfortunately, the systems or lack of security system in that company actually helped them to do that. Because if it had been another company, hopefully he would have gone to the other counter's signature and said, I had this meeting, and that one where I said, but they didn't call me into the meeting and I wasn't there, and he might have phoned up somebody and stopped it then. But with having just one person being deceived, that's the problem you've got there.
There are many touch points now in this AI age that we need to think about to make sure that we are not facing this deep fake. Do you have like any kind of range of stuff that we can look for to make sure that, let's say that somebody call me on WhatsApp, say, Miss Esther, sorry, I can't come to the meeting, but can you just transfer me £5,000 because held in Hong Kong and I can't come back. I'll give it to you back when I'm. How do you know what are the things that can ring a bell so you know that it might be a deep fake? Shall we go like deep fake first? We assume that is deep fake first, and then we go by elimination to figure out that is the right person. So
I think you have to take it from the idea that everything, if the person's not in the same room with you, in the same meet, if you're not in the same room talking to the person, faced, you have to take it for granted, or take it that it may be a deep fake. So let's say the safest bit is that I'm face to face with the person. I know the person before, etc., not a problem. If I'm not in face-to-face with the person and they call me online, do remember we've had cases before, which even before AI, it was called CEO fraud, and where what they would do is that they would hack your system. They would get into the business and they would know everything that was happening. And then we've had cases where, let's say the CEO is traveling to France and he's planning to buy a boat. What they would do is that they would then contact the chief financial officer and say, I found the boat I'm interested in. This is this. Please wire the money here. So remember, the financial officer is expecting the CEO to come to buy the boat. He has no reason to be suspicious. He wires the money. So what you would want to do is that before you go away, you would arrange with the CEO, not by email, because you don't know who's in your email system, remember. A lot of times they're in your email system months before, but face to face, you'd have a word or something that is going to be in that email for him to transfer it. If he's going to want it transferred to a new account, because normally what they then do is that they then want it transferred to a different account to what. So if the CEO is telling me, oh, transfer to my account 25,000, that's fine, because you've got his account details. It's going to his account. What's the criminal going to do? Unless he's got access to the guy's account, he can't do anything anyway. Or the CEO would come back and say, why did you transfer 25,000 to my account? I didn't ask for it yet. It's when what normally happens is that they'll say 25,000 and please transfer it to the new account, this account, which is the boat owner's account. Please transfer it there. So either what you would arrange with your CEO is that any money, I'll transfer it to your account, which I've already got the details of, and you will make the onward transfer. Or if you want me to transfer it to a new account, we've got this word or couple of words or this phrase I'm going to use, and I know that this is the account and this is you. So things like that. Now, what also we need to be thinking about is that what this is now demanding is that the kind of leader you are in your organization. Because if you're one of those controlling autocratic leaders where, I say jump and it's how high, anything you do or say, your staff is not going to question, which makes it easier for the hacker. If you're a leader, a purpose-driven leader who has integrity, morals, values, etc., and vision, and you're working with your people rather than they're just working for you, they know that, oh, if there's a problem, I can approach this person and talk to him and say, this. They're not going to lose their cool or be really annoyed with me. When something happens that they think, that doesn't sound like his character, they will feel at ease to approach you and say, oh, Francine, this is this and this. And you say, no, I didn't ask for 25,000 or 25 million. Please don't send it. It's not me. You see? But that's because you have opened the way so that they can, in speaking to you as an individual, they feel part of the mission. They feel that their role isn't just as an employee, that they're being told these are the orders, go and do them like robots. They feel that they're part of whatever mission they're doing, they're part of the business, and that they're valued employees. And they can feel that they can question you. So I think that what this is this is actually doing is that it's bringing into question leadership styles, and leadership styles have to become more human-centric.
Wow, I love that. Oh my gosh, human AI is going to help us to become more human-centric. I love this. I love the fact that, empowered employees obviously are going to be much more like your security in the organization. Look out for those things because, as you say, if you're autocratic and you say, this is what you need to be done, they don't question. So if AI also obviously know that that is the style that you're using, he's going to come and use your style and that there won't be any questions. So that is very, very important. That is really fantastic. So tell me, what worries you the most? Is it the technology or the lack of human awareness of this? What can happen?
I think that for me, that what worries me the most is that we don't put them together. It's not the technology, it's not the human awareness, it's both. Because I think that what we need to think about is if you think about the technology on its own, it's like AI on its own. It can be, some people say, oh, AI is the problem. AI is the solution. AI is this, AI is that. And then they build it up to be something that is not. AI is neither the problem nor the solution.
Yeah.
For me, AI is like money. Money is neutral, and when I was a prosecutor, I used to say things like this, that if you give money to a drug, to trafficker or things like that, surprise, they're going to use it for bad things. But the same money, you can give it to somebody who will go and build hospitals, who will build schools and do great things with it. So money is neutral. There's nothing ever evil about money. Same thing with AI. AI is, remember I said I had to go and do these computer courses. One thing they taught me, and this is how I thought about it, was if you put rubbish in,
Yes.
what you get out, you get rubbish out.
Exactly.
And that's AI. It's not that it's planning to do anything bad or evil, but it will do what you program it to do. If you remember some years ago, there was a bot that they put out, an AI bot, and they let it go loosely around the internet, which I thought was going to be a problem anyway. And surprise, surprise, it came out as racist, everything that it shouldn't have been. It was ages. It came out with a whole lot of rubbish. Why? Because
this is what he found online.
if you go online, what do you see? You see a whole lot of rubbish online.
Exactly.
You won't allow your children to go online unsupervised. Why would you put an AI bot, which is like a child? Okay, it's got all of this ability, but it's innocent in the sense of it doesn't know good or evil. It's going to do whatever you program it. So if you program a lot of rubbish in, you're going to get a lot of rubbish out. And what I would say is, think about the fact that in looking at cyber crimes, what they say is that organizations are more at danger, risk from their employees than from hackers outside. Why? Because employees inside, they don't even need to be, if you've got, as we said, the autocratic leader who does everything and says everything, and all you do is you follow examples, guess what? Every email that comes in talking rubbish and saying, click here, what are they going to do? Click, click, click. Because if there's no awareness, you haven't told them about this and that and the other. But if you've got a leader who is task orientated, who is listening to his people, who is human centric and has spent time with these people, they will see the business as part of an extension of themselves, as something they're interested in. Something comes along and they see this, they'll think, should I be clicking here? We had training last week that said this and that and the other. Okay, let me send it to the IT people. They would know better.
Yeah.
They don't click. Because let's think about it. It's a lot of people are doing things online at home and they're just clicking, clicking, clicking. I tell everybody, think before you click. And a lot of times I will say, even after you've thought, don't click. Open up a clean page and go there. It will only take you 2 seconds. Why click a link which you may be downloading different things? You'll be taking you off to some false account, false website, which will download things onto your system, etc., etc. So you need to be careful. The other thing I tell people is think about when you go on Google, the top things that come up on Google, even when you've put in, let's say you search term of, let's say I put in cyber global, the top thing that will come up are sponsored links.
Always, yeah.
Sponsored links are not anything to do with cyber global, wouldn't be anything to do with your business. They are links that people have paid for. And do know that these criminals are paying for these links. So, I've been on sites where some well-known, I won't say it, software manufacturers that have help desks, they come up on the sponsored links. And I'm very sure it's not their help desk.
Definitely.
I'm
I
very
also
sure.
have that as a rule of thumb. All the sponsored link, whether it's the right that one I'm looking for, I always go down to the non-sponsored one.
Yeah,
Please.
because a lot of crooks are actually doing that nowadays. I think, this is my personal opinion, that a lot of these people that are allowing us to see these sponsored links are not checking out enough to make sure it's the real thing. Because I've heard cases of people that wanted, let's say, as an example, Microsoft and help desk, and they've been clicked on something they thought was Microsoft, but it was actually a sponsored link. Took them somewhere else,
And then they give all the detail, and before you know, you haven't got any Microsoft account anymore.
yeah, things like that are happening. And so you have to say that the sponsored link is a problem. So you have to think to yourself that, you need to open the browser yourself. You need to put in Microsoft and you go down. You don't go to the sponsored links. You go down to the one where it says Microsoft, no sponsored links. And then you click on that and then you'll know that you're in Microsoft. Or else you put Microsoft in the browser and you just get Microsoft, with the whole of their
URL, yeah.
URL. But
That's
a lot of people
awesome.
don't remember that.
So that is really cool. I hope that after this episode, people are going to put every security around them to be safe in this AI age. So if you have to give every leader, entrepreneurs or organization a starter pack today or a framework for digital security of these, what will that be? What can they start to put in place?
Well, I would say for individuals, I would say think about your passwords, password manager. Think about what you're downloading. Think about all of the apps you're downloading. And look at because with some of the apps you're downloading, you're giving them a lot of like there was one app I downloaded recently that I noticed was trying to get all of my contacts. It didn't need those. So I then went through and decided what it could access, what it couldn't. A lot of them try and get your camera, your photos. They want to be able to get your microphone. Why? I mean, I can see your point if you're on Zoom or you're on Teams, they need it. But a lot of the things you're downloading don't actually need it. And a lot of times it might be due to lazy developers who, just leave everything open. So when it downloads, everything is, whether they need it or not, is all already ticked. And so it gets it. But sometimes it might be malicious, so I don't know which one it is. So what I always do is that if I decide that there's an app that I need, and I don't just download apps because there's a pretty app and it looks nice. I download the app because I think I need it. I will download it from the actual store. So if you're with Apple, you will download it from Apple's store itself. And if you're Google, you download it from theirs. Is it Google? What other one is there? There's different ones, but you would download it from their app store directly. I don't just take it from the website itself because you're not really sure. I prefer to take it from
the App Store.
the App Store because that's some
There's even that
security.
Amazon store as well. So
Yeah.
go to this.
So whichever store you're going to, make sure you go to the store rather than just downloading it from any website. That is also being a little bit more secure. I would then say, obviously, as we said, you need a VPN, virtual private network, before you get online, and you need to be consistent in using it. You need to make sure all of your software is up to date because what's happening is that the things are being hacked so quickly, and also the software that's coming out. So let's say for your laptop or your phone, a lot of the software that's coming out is coming out with bugs, which we're not aware of, but the hackers and others are finding out, researchers are finding out quickly. So once they find out and they tell the software manufacturer immediately sends out an update. Now, what we're seeing is that, and they call those 0 days because they're bugs. And what we're seeing is that the number of days between the bug being found, being repaired, and hackers and those misusing that bug are getting shorter. So you need to make sure that immediately, the update comes out, you're updating. And the easiest way to do that is that you allow the machine to automatically update. So I've got automatic updates done on my machine, but I also make sure that every now and again I'm already clicking it and saying, has it got the latest
Yeah.
update, you know? So sometimes just to make sure. And then you make sure that your updates on your apps are all updated as well. Because
Yeah.
sometimes the 0 day might be on one of your apps rather than on your actual software for your laptop or your iPad. So I would say think about doing things like that. So there's so many things you can do, but I would say think about those are just a few of the basic ones because otherwise I would come out with a very long line.
That is already like a very good one that, we can all put in place to have
Mm.
a much more secure life in the AI age. Tell me more, Esther, before we just wrap up. We talk about purpose and meaning, meaningful work, meaningful life. We talk a lot about meaningful work and how we say secure. What actually gives you purpose? How do you stay on purpose these days?
For me, my purpose actually has shifted. Remember, I was telling you about when I was first a prosecutor and things like that. I think purpose and vision and your mission changes as you get older, as you move along and things like that. For me now, the thing that really fires me up with purpose and mission is observing the new generation coming along and seeing how I can mentor them. I see many problems we have online at the moment, but I also see the possibilities of what people can do. I see AI and I can see the fact that I would have loved to have AI, to be honest, when I was a kid. And because I can see the fact that you can do so many positive things with AI. It's so far as you acknowledge AI as a tool rather than as the be all and end all, you would make sure that you would use AI to be purposeful. And I look at the thing of, I think to myself a lot of times that, okay, if I had £1 million or £1 billion, what would I do? I would do what I'm doing now, but I would do it in a fuller way. I look at probably working, I would want to work where, for me, I look at AI and I look at the countries that are actually embracing AI and are running forward with it. But there are a lot of other countries with no fault of their own that are not able to move that quickly with AI. And for me, I think this is going back to when the internet first came in and we saw cyber crimes and things like that. What happened was that the countries that were able to secure themselves did. But what happened was that you then had a gap. You had what we call the weakest links. And guess what? The cyber criminals back then were hitting us from the weakest links. I would say for things like AI, etc., you're going to have the same thing. You've got countries that are running ahead and are securing themselves, etc. They need to look back and help the others and bring them up because otherwise all you're doing is you're opening gaps for where cyber criminals are now going to hit you. And for me, I look at how can I help the next generation, male, female, all over the world, is by mentoring others. I'm working with some people in Africa and we're working in a little island actually. And I think this is a really good concept for me because it's very small and we can see whether we make a difference. We're looking at how we can help them to develop, how we can help them to more or less get the children to be online savvy, etc. And so we're doing things like that. We're doing it in a very small way. But as I said, if we start small and we start working up, this is how we're going to see it. So for me, this is what I think I was interested in victims. I've now moved from a little bit more from victims to how can we actually make these systems work for us? How can we actually recognize AI, use it to its fullness, but recognize that it's not going to replace human-centric. We still have to be human-centric. We have to have integrity. We have to have mission. We have to have vision. We have to be very much in line with knowing what we're going to do tomorrow to make the world a better place. And that's not really to hand it all over to AI, it's to work with AI. We wouldn't want to be in courtrooms where the judge is AI, where all it's doing is just the rule books. We need compassion. We need humanity. And so, AI works very well in the court system and it can. And it will be, but it will still need human oversight. I think that's all over the world with AI. That would be,
I love that. I love the fact that your purpose and your mission, as you're saying it now, is empowering the next generation, especially in
yeah.
Africa and countries where the digital infrastructure are not there yet to
Mm,
move. with AI. And then this new generation is those who are going to shape the world anyway. They might as well start to get in because we want to have an AI where everything is included, not just one side, right? So
Yeah.
that's where AI is going to give us powerful answers as well. When you get all the view included, not just some views. Thank you so much. So what is one key message you would like to leave our listeners with?
If I was to have one key message, it would be to think that AI is going to change things. Agreed. It's going to it can make the world a better place. It's going to bring challenges, but it's also going to be something that you can utilize to change the world for the better, to help others that are, let's say, in poverty, who are in need at the moment, to move up. It would also be something that you can use to bring people together and to really move forward in a positive light. So that's what we're looking at the moment, is what's the difference we're going to make with AI? AI can make us faster, but only purpose makes us fulfilled. And I would say purpose is going to be the thing that's going to drive us, because everybody's talking about how AI is going to replace us. It would never replace us if we continue to be human focused.
Yeah.
We're compassionate, we're purpose driven people. We will move into this next generation with AI. And I think that's what it is. And I would invite people to stay with Cyber Global Center. As Francine said, we do have a free password course that you can do. Please sign up to do it. We have a newsletter, which Francine has been quoting from. And also, please link up with me on LinkedIn. Let's continue this conversation that Francine has started. And my thanks to Francine and to the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Esther. Definitely tell us exactly the link of where people can go and see and what you are doing, those fabulous things, how they can get in touch with you, actually. What's the link of your website?
It's on my background. It's www.cyber, which is ZYBER GLOBAL, cyberglobal.com, or one word. And please link up with us. And I'm Esther George. If you put Esther George Cyber, there are other Esther Georges on LinkedIn, a lot of them. But if you put Esther George and put Cyber ZY, you'll come up with me. So please link up with me online.
Thank you very much for sharing your expertise. Your perspective is really invaluable, especially as we are trying to lead and live with purpose in this AI-shaped world. So it's been a real pleasure having you on the show, Esther.
Thank you very much.
As we close this conversation, one thing should feel clear. Cybersecurity is no longer about technology alone. It's about leadership. It's about culture. It's about whether people feel safe enough to think and brave enough to question. Esther reminded us that AI scales both protection and crime. And in that reality, naive trust becomes a liability, not because people are foolish, but because system and hierarchies haven't evolved. Firewalls can't protect dignity, and policies can't replace judgment. And no amounts of automation can compensate for cultures where questioning authority is discouraged. So purpose without protection collapses. So here is your sprint for this week. And this one is about conscious leadership. So what is one decision in your organization that should never rely on a single person? What is one assumption you make because of authority, hierarchy, or seniority? What is one human check you will now formalize, whether it's a pause, a verification, or a question? Count also how many processes now requires a second human confirmation, not because you distrust people, but because you respect them. Because in the AI age, protecting trust is not a technical task. It is a leadership responsibility. So this is how we live, lead, and thrive on purpose without sleepwalking into risk. So if you want support reconnecting with your own strength and values as a leader, you'll find the free Ikigai quiz at francinebelly.com/podcast. The show notes of the episode are also available on the same page, francinebelly.com/podcast. After conversation like this, it is easy to feel overwhelmed or even paralyzed. And in the next episode, I pose the noise and talk about how we carry responsibility without burning out or switching off. I'll see you next week for another episode of Meaningful Work, Meaningful Life podcast. Until then, breathe out and make an impact. Love some world.